All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling a topic that trips up so many students, and honestly, a lot of businesses too: fixed versus variable costs. If you stick with me, you're not just going to master this for your next exam, you'll see exactly how it drives the strategy for giants like Netflix and Tesla. So, why should you care? Well, look at this number: negative $1,800. That's a real loss a local coffee shop can face in a single slow month. And the reason why comes down to one thing: how their costs are structured. By the end of this, you'll get exactly why this happens. So here's our game plan. We're going to walk through this in 5 simple steps. We'll start with the absolute basics, then see how it plays out with real companies, decode the math you'll need, sidestep the common traps, and then lock it all in so you're ready for test day. Okay, let's jump in. First up, the fundamental split. And to really make this stick, let's forget the business jargon for a second. Let's just imagine you're planning a pizza party. Okay, so for your party, you have fixed costs. These are the things you're on the hook for no matter what. It's the cost to rent the room. You pay that, say, $200 whether 5 people show up or 50 people show up. In a business, that's your rent, your insurance, a manager's salary. The total amount just doesn't change. And then you've got your variable costs. This is the easy one. It's the pizza. The more guests who RSVP, the more pizza you have to order. The cost goes up in direct proportion to your guests. For a business, this is the coffee beans for every latte, the raw materials for every widget you make. More sales means more of these costs. Okay, now this slide is the one that messes everybody up, so lean in for this. Look at the rows. A fixed cost is constant in total, right? The room is always $200. But the cost per unit or per person actually goes down the more people you have. It's cheaper per head with 50 desks than with 5. Now flip it. A variable cost is constant per unit. Each pizza is always $15. But the total cost goes way up with more people. It's this inverse relationship that is the key to everything. All right, so that's the theory. But let's see how these costs actually behave out in the wild. We'll start with a company that pretty much all of us use. Let's talk about Netflix. Their entire business model is a masterclass in leveraging a specific cost structure. They have absolutely massive, gigantic fixed costs. But the cost to add one more person, like you or me, it's tiny. I mean, just look at these numbers from 2023. They spend around $25 billion on making shows. That's a fixed cost. They pay that whether one person watches or 250 million people watch. But the variable cost to actually stream that content to you? We're talking pennies a month. So here's the magic. Every new subscriber they add is almost pure profit because those huge fixed costs are already paid for. Okay, so let's switch gears from digital to physical. Let's talk Tesla. When you're in manufacturing, these big fixed costs, like building a billion-dollar gigafactory, create something called operating leverage. And all that really means is that volume becomes your superpower. And this table shows you exactly why. Check this out. When that factory is only making 50,000 cars a year, the fixed cost for each car is a hefty $16,000. But when they crank up production to 250,000 cars, that same massive factory cost gets spread so thin it drops to just over $3,000 per car. The result? A stunning 39% drop in the total cost to make each vehicle just by making more of them. Now that we've seen this in action, let's get to the part you'll definitely need for your exam: the math. And don't worry, it's actually a really simple formula that lets you predict your costs with incredible accuracy. Yeah, I know. It looks like it's straight out of algebra class, and that's because it is. It's the linear cost formula, y equals mx plus b. But in business, this thing is like a crystal ball. Y is just your total cost. B is your fixed cost. That's your baseline, the amount you pay even if you do nothing. And mx is your total variable cost. It's the cost per unit, m, times how many units you make, x. So here's the classic exam question. They'll give you a messy jumble of costs and you have to separate them. How do you do it? With the high-low method. It's just 3 easy steps. First, you find the months with the highest and lowest activity. I'll say that again: the highest and lowest activity, not cost. Second, you use those 2 points to figure out the slope. That's your variable cost per unit, your m. And finally, you just plug that number back into the main formula to solve for b, your total fixed cost. That's it. All right, you're going to want to pay close attention here. This is where we get into the sneaky stuff, the gotcha questions that professors just love to put on exams to see if you were really paying attention. So here's the first big one. The name says fixed cost, right? So it has to be unchangeable, set in stone forever, right? And the answer is a big no. This is so important. Fixed costs are only fixed within a specific relevant range of activity. Think about it. Your factory rent is fixed. Until you get so busy, you need to rent a second factory. The second you do that, boom, your total fixed costs jump up to a whole new level. They're only fixed in steps. Okay, here's another classic trap. It seems obvious, right? More work means you need more workers, so all labor must be a variable cost. But it's not quite that simple. The truth is, it all comes down to how the person gets paid. A salaried factory manager? They get paid the same whether you make one thing or a million things. That's a fixed cost. An assembly worker who gets paid per piece they finish? That's a pure variable cost. And what about an employee with a base salary who also gets overtime? Well, that's a mixed cost. It has both parts. You always have to look at the pay structure. Okay, let's bring it all home. This is your exam day toolkit, the shortcuts and the one simple memory hook you need to walk into that test with total confidence. Here are the pro tips. Special orders. If you have extra capacity, the decision is easy. As long as the price they offer is more than your variable cost, you take it. Break-even point. Remember, you're just trying to cover your fixed costs, so you just divide your fixed costs by your contribution margin per unit. And one last time on the high-low method. Always use the highest and lowest activity levels, not the cost levels. It's the most common trap. Look, if you're in the exam and you feel the pressure and your mind goes blank, it happens to everyone. I want you to just remember this one sentence. Fixed costs are constant in total. Variable costs are constant per unit. That's it. That's the core logic. If you can just remember that, you can think your way through any problem they throw at you. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this bigger idea. The next time you see a company like Uber or Airbnb, don't just see a tech company. Think about the genius of what they did. They took the biggest traditional fixed costs in their industries, owning fleets of cars or owning huge hotels, and they brilliantly turned them into variable costs. So ask yourself, what does that strategic move mean for their risk, for their ability to scale? Because understanding this stuff isn't just about passing an exam. It's about understanding how business really works.